Fire season is approaching again with the yearly threat of devastation in the Northwest. 2 years ago in September, the Beachy Creek fire blew through the Santiam Canyon in Oregon, destroying thousands of structures and killing 5 people. So how can we prevent a tragedy like that in the future? Well, one idea, better prediction of the weather. Multiple lawsuits accuse Pacific Power of not shutting off transmission lines in 2020, despite high winds in the forecast, which could have prevented fire starts. Those lawsuits are still open and the company won't talk about it directly, but today they did give me a look at the new weather program they've put in place, a move designed to avoid future disasters.
This is the control center.
Steve Vanderberg is a meteorologist who used to work for the National Weather Service and then built and ran the Fire Weather Forecast Center for San Diego Gas and Electric in California. Now he's in Portland, building a program for Pacific Power with a $25 million budget over 5 years.
We're seeing larger wildfires, more severe fire seasons, and that's a catalyst for the tools that we're about to show.
As a changing climate brings more extreme weather, the power company started planning for wildfires in California in 2018 and filed its first fire mitigation plan for Oregon last December. Now Vanderberg and 4 other meteorologists are building a weather forecasting program that will use machine learning and multiple databases to create complex forecasts for the 6 states where the utility operates. It will include a database of weather with an hour-by-hour history for conditions that cover those 6 states and stretches back 30 years.
So in other words, at any given point in our service territory, we'll be able to generate a time series of hourly weather conditions over 30 years. What that allows you to do is then correlate that to the outage activity we've seen, correlate that to things like wildfire occurrence, correlate that to a number of events.
Here's an example of how it will work. This shows winds that were predicted for April 4th and the impact on the Pacific Power electric system. The red indicates locations where winds were expected to blow harder than 99% of typical wind for that place. That would suggest power outages as trees and other things fall. A later check of that same map, with power outages included as black dots, shows the forecast was accurate. There were outages where the red line suggested they might be. Another version of the program shows the dryness of the ground and the fuel on it. Green is good, yellow is drying.
This is something called 10-hour dead fuel moisture. So if we zoom in on Oregon, this is the forecast for the amount of moisture in the sticks and twigs that are on the ground, hour by hour.
Another view shows 3D modeling of the winds this past weekend, just west of Bend on Saturday.
And then as we come through the passes, you'll notice that the wind is now accelerating down those eastern slopes toward Bend. But as we get into Bend, we see a decrease in those winds.
It's the sort of thing that could have been very useful in September of 2020, when the Beachy Creek fire, fanned by historic winds and dry conditions, killed 5 people and destroyed thousands of structures in the Santiam Canyon. Some blamed Pacific Power for ignoring Weather Service forecasts of historic winds and not shutting the electricity off to its power lines, adding to the fire. The issue is part of a lawsuit, and Pacific Power said it will not comment on the lawsuit. But the VP of Operations for Pacific Power said it is an example of why something like the new weather program is necessary.
So the Beachy Creek fire and the Labor Day event in general is really an example of the extreme weather that we've been seeing in the last couple of years. It's an example of the impactfulness that wildfire risk can have on the communities we serve. While we had these plans in place to expand our situational awareness, it just emphasized how important it is to continue that journey.
The Pacific Power system was used in part last summer in southern Oregon. This year it will cover all of Oregon and 5 other states, with a goal of knowing where the threats are the highest so steps can be taken ahead of time to keep everyone safe.
And then maybe in this area we have the intersection of those two, which is the weather here is expected to bring an increased risk of outages on our system, and the potential for wildfire and the potential consequences of a wildfire are extreme in this location.
Now let's check in with our expert, Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. I know we've had a lot of rain, but fire season actually starts today in parts of southwest Oregon. What could be in store for us, Matt?
Yeah, being June 1st, beginning of the fire season. But I got to say, Pat, that's a super interesting story. And that's great work that those meteorologists are doing by really specifically using groundbreaking technology, really. I mean, using all the technology available to us, combining the computer technology, AI, and meteorological knowledge and weather databases to come up with very specific forecasts, not only for very specific areas, but for a very specific need. Which is different from what we do, for instance, for general public forecasting or aviation forecasting or even marine forecasting. So really cool work that they're doing there. All right, let's talk about what we're looking at as we go into summer. The drought monitor, we show you this quite frequently, and it's great news west of the Cascades. We don't have drought conditions at all, as you would expect with the wet spring that we have had. But you don't have to travel far. And you know, the yellow area is not really that concerning. It's dry to moderate. That's down around Eugene. But over in eastern Oregon, we're still looking at extreme and even exceptional drought across parts of Oregon. And if we widen the map out, really still extremely dry throughout California, down through the desert Southwest. And this, I know what you're thinking maybe is, well, I actually have no idea what you're thinking. But let me make this point. Las Vegas, you know, normally very dry. It's a desert, but they can still have drought conditions in the desert if it's extremely dry, drier than normal for those areas. So that's why this matters here. So what are we looking at? Well, first of all, let's go over the rainfall numbers because they've been impressive. For Portland, April and May, third wettest on record, nearly 10 inches of rain. We hardly ever see that for those 2 months. And if you contrast that to last year, April and May, I don't think we even had an inch of rain those 2 months combined. So 180-degree difference from 2021. We also had our 10th wettest May on record in Portland with over 3.7 inches of rain. And then this last number here, perhaps the most impressive and most important, Timberline Lodge over the Memorial Day weekend, actually from Thursday afternoon through Monday, over 2 inches of rain. So it wasn't just a timberline. Much of the Cascades in Oregon had that much rain. So we're keeping the forest wetter longer than we did the last couple of years. Another final graphic on that. Crater Lake, 83 inches of snow on the ground still. That's 199% of its average for this time of the year, Pat. So our forests are much moister than they were a year ago. That will help a lot. That said, if we have human problems, starting fires or a big lightning outbreak, we can still get wildfires, but at least the pump isn't primed so severely as it was the last couple of years.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Excellent stuff as always.